Rolling up in blacked out cars, talking like they own the stars. Smiling for the camera flash, hands in your pocket, counting cash. Trust us this time, they'll stay. Same old trick in a brand new script. Waving papers, sailing home. Fine print line is a velvet rope.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to California Free Radio. Everybody, we are blasting live on Facebook at Netter Mike and in various groups. I'll be blasting out to more groups in a second. Our Outrage YouTube channel and on X at Netter Mike and at TaxFighter7. And of course, if you happen to be managed to get a job in California, you will find us on LinkedIn. Everyone out there, as you know, in case you've forgotten my name, I am Mike Netter, running for state senate, accompanied as always by Scott Piotr and Kurt English. And this week, I want to start off our show, with a question for you. Californians, when exactly will you have had enough? And I don't know exactly where the point comes, if it's a tax revolt or what kind of revolt in the streets. But I think we're getting there. You see that in the polls of the two Republicans leading. But there's so much going on that you have to start to wonder when even the liberals will have had enough. Kurt's going to cover a lot of good stories that he's put together this week, but I want you to get your arms around exactly what, again, I say the Democrats, the liberal left are doing just in the first few months of this year. Let's take a step back, and I want you to think about it. I'm going to start with, this may be a shock to you, with some of the benign stuff first. As you can see behind Scott, yes, indeed, as predicted, gas is approaching $5, $6, $7, $8 a gallon. That might tick you off. If that isn't enough, though, and this is even more benign, they want to start charging us per mile to drive. Democrats are calling it a study, but why in the expletive deleted would they even propose that in an election year? You really have to ask yourself the question, why would they do that? Pushing the envelope to see how much they can get away with. Now, these are annoyances. These are things that bother us. And I'm going to get to the debate being canceled, which I was supposed to attend in a few minutes here. These are things that bother us. But the part that really should frost you, make you upset, and it's beyond belief that they are letting people that are molesters and murderers, I'm going to say that again, molesters and murderers out of jail at around age 50, who have been sentenced previously to life in prison, 30 years, 40 years, under the elder parole law. I'm going to cover that again very slowly because it almost sounds like it's out of a bad Charlton Heston movie from many years ago. Get your arms around that really quick. Now, people that have murdered people, that have molested children, done unspeakable things to women, who have been sentenced to life in prison or 40 or 50 years, are being let out after they served 20 years. Originally, this was slated for age 60. Newsom signed it. They moved it down to age 50. Now, everyone out there watching this, I'm going to guess, and again, I'm fully disclosure, I'm running for state senate, I'm 69, I still could do some damage. Scott, Kurt, we can still do some damage. And they're letting these people out of prison. The part that I find very bizarre is they're being let out by a parole board that Newsom controls. Are they really trying to create mass havoc in California? Anybody out on a serious note before we even get to the comedy, and there's lots of it here tonight. People are going to die. And before you think this is far away removed from you, I want to be really clear on this. This has already happened a number of times. We see it happen with illegal aliens. You've seen already some of these people gone back to jail. It's going to be someone you know, a relative you know, God forbid, a child of yours. This is going to happen. These are people being literally let out of prison that aren't even eligible to get a senior discount at Denny's yet. Think about that. And why are they letting them out? This is a big question. Scott, Kurt, jump in for a second. I'm going to do.
I've got an answer, Mike. The reason they're letting them out is Democrats hate us. They intend for these crimes to happen. Look at why we had to pass Prop 36. They were fine with the smash and grab robberies. They're fine with illegal aliens killing, raping, and robbing because they want the votes of those illegal aliens and they want to vote for them, and they don't give a rat's you know what about us, our health,
Rats
our safety,
posterior, we call it. Yes.
yep, or anything else.
Hey, but hey, we have Maxine Waters going into the fight for us.
Oh, I was going to save that one for everybody out
there.
Oh,
I don't think she's fighting for us.
If you've ever been scared about the security of our country, and although they're trying to stop law enforcement from doing various things, this on the screen is not made up. It is not hyperbole. Maxine Waters is threatening or going to go and confront ICE at airports. Now, I'm trying to think. Somebody help me here, gentlemen, with some quasi-polite words to get this started. I have met Maxine Waters when she was young. She never would have won necessarily a beauty contest. To say as I put it,
she's diplomatic there. You must be a politician.
Well, I'm going to say this too. I said this earlier in the pregame. She's bitter because she grew up with mirrors. Okay, this is a woman who barely could put a sentence together. Okay. Who certainly, to say, I mean, she is literally older than the Dodgers franchise almost. And the fact she's still in Congress is an
abomination. Mike, she's definitely older than the Padres franchise.
100%. I'm older.
Hey, wait a second. At least she didn't think that the island of Guam was going to turn over because we had an army base or an air force base on the other side.
Oh, like Hank Johnson.
Was that Hank Johnson? That was Barbara Lee.
I thought it was Hank Johnson.
Yeah, you may be right. Either way,
there's a long list of people.
Yeah, there's a long list of people on the Democrat side that would qualify for that statement, including Maxine. Maxine's been a fixture. She's been, she's become a rich person since she's gotten into Congress.
Well, that's why she doesn't live in her district, Scott, in the ghetto in LA.
She would represent the ghetto. She's not going to live there. Give me a break. Who would expect her to live there?
Democrats don't want to live in the conditions they create, gentlemen.
No, really? I never knew that. So do we want to talk fraud in California?
We'll get to it.
We're going to get to fraud in California, but I want to start with fraud again. Really dwell on the point, and I want you to think about this.
Nice shirt, Mike. Show everybody your shirt.
Thank you. In case you haven't realized, it's a shirt with my name on it. My slogan is Netter for a Better California. I am running for State Senate District 22, about 1 million people. And I said this on the John Phillips show this week. One of the reasons I'm running is to get stuff done. Okay. The Assembly and State Senate today, or the Assembly, has voted in to change Cesar Chavez the name of the day. Stop giving him pub for starters. But the insanity is they also found time to write a letter because 4 of their candidates were not polling high enough to make the gubernatorial debate. These are the 2 things they have gotten done this week. To remove the honor of a dishonor of a dead guy who apparently wasn't that great, and to write a letter to prevent from a gubernatorial debate taking place. But what have they done to make your lives better? They did manage to get together with Nixon signed again to let killers and rapists out of jail and molesters out of jail. They have signed things to keep to make the prices behind Scott. And Scott, you're going to need to change that into a moving graphic so we can watch it go up during the show, literally, because it's insane how high gas prices are getting, which we predicted. They literally there's something like over 70 different tax increases coming on the ballot this November because they cannot spend enough money.
I'm sorry, Mike, how many?
About 70. They're
7-0.
up in 7-0.
7-0.
They're in various counties, various cities. We forget, like, what's happening in LA County is happening up and down. The Democrats cannot find enough money to spend. And to do that, they simply want to take more of our money. I was on a call with Carl DeMaio yesterday, it was Wednesday, and we were counting them down. Okay. It is insane the number of tax increases that they want us to suffer. And I guess the question is, how much can you take and where is your money going? They're now endangering life and limb. I mean, literally to the point where it is becoming incredibly scary for a lot of people. Again, many of you go 50 years old. Most of us at 50, again, you know my age, I've said it before, 69, I'm in pretty damn good shape and I could do some damage. I don't have a history, good luck finding that, Democrats, of violence or other molestation things. These people do, and we're letting them out of prison. Okay. And yeah, I mean, I want to dwell on that for 1 second because it is absolutely disgusting and beyond appalling like that. And if you think that isn't enough, the story which isn't good enough pub, and I talked about on the John Phillips show this week, is that right in front of our eyes, on the streets of California, they are paying people per signature to illegally sign petitions. Now, many of you out there go, what's the big deal about that? That is the ultimate voter fraud. And it is more than something you go back and say, hey, maybe Netter got a few more votes, maybe Netter got a few less. This is what they put propositions on the ballot with, and is the dragon out of the cradle that they're creating. And speaking as being a plaintiff in the Prop 50 case, once these get on the ballot and the unions get them passed, the courts are going to be very reluctant to overturn them. So where the expletive deleted is the legislature of California screaming holy blank about that. They're not, because the unions are taking this money, feeding into NGOs your money, and literally in plain sight, as JJ pictured in San Francisco and James O'Keefe did in Los Angeles, they are signing and paying and telling people to forge in plain sight on camera. Secretary of State, and more importantly, the legislature should be demanding those petitions be yanked immediately. Gentlemen, ready for a shocker? They're all leftist petitions, billionaire tax, etc., etc. Well, this guy looks like a fine human being, Scott.
He's being released.
Yeah.
Being paroled, coming to a neighborhood near you.
Looks like he cleaned up for the photo.
How can you tell? He took his shirt off, huh? It's not, I mean, this isn't a joke. This isn't a ruse. This is happening. These guys are being released. So, we're going to have to deal with them in our neighborhoods. And it's all because of the legislature and Governor Newsom Gruesome.
And now, Mike, just going back to something you said a minute ago, I'm still trying to process. They were showing people petitions where they had pre-filled in registered voters and just saying,
no, it's worse than that. They are taking the petitions. They are saying we will give you $5 per, $10, $20 per signature to sign it, not to the gatherer, but to the people signing. And then they're saying, forge a fake name, forge this signature, and we will pay you to do it in broad daylight.
But they're giving them the name, right? They're saying John Smith or Mary Jones.
They're going to make it up, or they're giving them the name. Yeah,
but if you make it up, it's not going to match any registered voter.
It doesn't matter. Let me explain something. Then I'm glad you're actually intelligent question, even from the USC grad. Got to throw that in.
That's where they all come from, the intelligent questions.
Was that why the debate canceled at USC this week? Sorry, Kurt, I got to rub that in.
Oh, by the way, what an idiot the president was for caving to that political pressure. But as you've discovered, Mike, he was a political hack in a Democrat administration.
Let's go back to the petition so everybody understands how dangerous it is. So this is what they're going to do. If you need 1 million signatures on a petition, okay, you turn them in waves and they start to get checked. They check the batches, the first 10% of the petitions, and if those first 10% of the names pass the 90% check, Kurt, then the rest of the signatures are randomly checked. Do you understand that?
Yeah,
So
so
that
they don't cheat until they pass that first threshold, is what you're saying.
They don't turn in the bad signatures until they pass that first threshold. Exactly. And they know that. So not every single signature is checked unless you don't pass the random check. They know that. I know that. And obviously, well, I know the business. They know that. So those forged signatures will not be turned in immediately. The average signature that the paid petitioners qualify at a 65% rate. We in the recall qualified at almost an 80% rate because it was done by volunteers. So the trick is to get past that threshold, and then you'll be randomly checked. And that's what's going to happen here.
Now, is there a way to challenge them and force them into counting every signature, or do you have to pay for that?
Nope, you can't. That's the interesting part too. That's a great question. So the way it works is the only person who really has standing is the main proponent, the initial person at the top of it. You cannot, this is the problem. We go back to the Gascon petition where people are like, The only person who really has standing to look at those signatures is really the main proponent. That main proponent can then write a letter of authorization to other people so they can look at the signatures. But you and I or other folks cannot go in and look.
Whoa. Wait a minute, Mike. Why don't we have standing when we have to live with the laws that go on the ballot? Shouldn't every California voter have standing?
Nope. And the reason for that is very succinct, and it actually makes sense. Because you can't go in, you cannot photocopy or look at them because then I would know who signed them. That's like looking at your vote. So I would see, oh, Kurt English, he's a conservative, and I have your address. I could see where you lived, and I'm coming after you. That's why.
Well, Mike, we can just give our address on this video cast in case there's angry liberals. Mine is 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. See you there.
Right. But you get what I'm saying, Kurt? That's why you can't do that. You can't photocopy the signatures. You can't and just anybody can go in and look at them. You can't take pictures of them. That's a protection.
Now, Mike, speaking of valid signatures, the CEO Act signatures need to be in soon, don't they?
Yep, they need to be in by about the middle of next week. We are about 60 to 70,000 off. We might make it, but it's going to be close. However, I'm also proud to say, why I'm also optimistic about their election cycle is, say, Prop 13 and voter ID are on the ballot. That's going to drive a lot of turnout. Those have made it. CEO Act may make it too. But my point is there's a lot driving going forward, and we've had everyone out there and Netter News and everything, and we've sent out close to over 1 million, contact of at least 1 million voters, probably like 1.5 just from Rebuild California to gather signatures. We have done a lot, and we is everybody who's watching this also. By the way, I don't see the chat up here because I don't have it up. Where the hell is it? There it is.
Click the button.
There we go. Good evening, Stephanie. I love that, Matthew. Yes, indeed. The communists are fairly strong. So We can do a lot with direct democracy, but right now the left is using it as a weapon illegally in plain sight. And my question for you two gentlemen, well, for Kurt and Scott, is
Who you calling gentlemen?
why isn't the legislature screaming holy hell about it? Why? Why? Why?
Well, I think you know the answer, Mike, because they want to cheat to win, because Democrats cheat in this generation.
I find it amazing that again, I've been on a soapbox about this because I really feel that people don't understand the serious danger of this. I mean, it is beyond appalling what literally is taking place. And this is what writes and makes laws, guys. And these laws are very hard to overturn once they get passed. And yes, they have to be voted on, but you know, pretty dangerous.
Now, Mike,
Very,
you mentioned something that is important about the liberal petitions being circulated. Didn't you say that one of them is the billionaire tax? But is that just for billionaires, or is it for everybody? And is it paper assets or liquid assets?
it's all assets. And here's the funny part, Kurt. We're not exactly sure which petitions they are because the people taking the photos are doing it correctly and making sure not to take exact ones on there. Those petitions on the street, okay, which we know 3 or 4 of them are, and I'm going to leave it alone because there's stuff going on here, need to
You
be
mean there's
ended.
more than one kind?
Oh yeah,
of
there's
same
about
thing?
4 of them they're doing this with, dude. There's a lot
Billionaire
of them.
taxes.
And wait. No. It's not just the billionaire tax. Let's be clear on what we've scratched the surface on. On Skid Row, where Los Angeles' most finest citizens reside, they are paying NGOs to to go out, get people, and pay and do illegal signing. That's where you've seen it. A. James O'Keefe. That's actually B. JJ, another guy I know, riding a bike up and down San Francisco, has caught it in downtown San Francisco on film, documented. Kevin Dalton put it out. I put out. It's been talked about it. Now, gentlemen, let's be perfectly clear on that. These are the two that we've seen. Am I making sense?
Yes.
There's
Explain
a
it.
hell of a lot more going on than that. Okay. So a hell of a lot more going on. The Secretary of State is CBS News picked it up after we put it out. Other stations picked it up. The Secretary of State is quote looking into it. But
Wink, wink.
nod, wink, wink. Right. By the time they're finished looking into it, when the horse is out of the barn galloping down the path, so to speak, it could be a number of things. And by the way, when you look at the portal for initiatives, there's about 20 to 30 of them in there. Many you don't pay a lot of attention to.
I'm sure
You know,
many
one
of
of
them that we're not going to like.
There's
So,
a
you
lot.
know, we talked about the billionaires tax, but people don't really understand it, or they look at it as, it doesn't affect me. What do I care? And, you know, just like the minimum wage on the fast food, we lost fast food jobs because of it. We lost fast food restaurants.
And your
because they
prices
couldn't
went
afford
up.
to pay in
An
business.
In-N-Out double meal went up 25% in one day.
So, you know,
Which is why
prices went up, jobs went down, and stores closed down and left the state. And the same thing's happened with the billionaire tax. The billionaire tax, half of the billionaires left before, because this is supposedly retroactive to January 1st of 2025, which, as Kurt, the attorney in the group, will sit there and tell you that that's probably not enforceable. But half of them left. Well, what do they do when they leave? They take all of their assets, all of their jobs, they're moving their companies, they're landing in a state like Florida or Texas that has no state income tax, and they can find employees that will, you know, frankly, if they worked for the same wage they were working for in California with the reduced taxes and the reduced cost of living, that's like giving them a humongous, you know, raise. So, and California doesn't get to collect taxes on the billionaires. They don't get to collect taxes on any of their employees that move. I mean, What a
Well,
stupid
but
idiot.
Scott, there's another problem. All the retail businesses that those employees used to spend money in, their money's gone because the employees are in another state. So that means the
And, and,
bakery, the dry cleaner, the hair
and,
cutters,
and we're
all
talking
the stores are losing money.
we don't just lose the billionaire, we lose all the middle class families that worked for that company and worked for that millionaire. So you're right. They're no longer buying In-N-Out burgers. They're no longer buying, groceries and sending their kids to school here.
Well,
So
one
there,
In-N-Out closed in Oakland that we talked about, a number of shows ago. But
that's
there
the
are
only In-N-Out
rumors.
burger that's ever closed, by the way.
Well, I got bad news for you. There's rumors there may be more in California because the owner's moving to Tennessee and may be tiring of the Gavin
No,
Clown
she has
show.
moved. Snyder has moved to Tennessee. She has
But,
moved.
but
They
I'm
moved
saying
there.
as leases come up in these In-N-Outs, don't be surprised if more of them close in California.
But
Rumor.
wait, let's take a step back. And again, we pay attention to what the press decides they should talk about. But let's just say Kurt, Scott, and Mike have had enough and we'd like to move out of California. And many of you are thinking, what's the big deal? I'm going to move. Gentlemen, what have they done lately to make it hard for us to move?
All the U-Haul trucks are out of state.
Well, that too. They are going to
They make
implement a transfer tax, like the mansion tax. You've heard about that, right?
Well, there's rumors, but when I went on to the AI engines, they said there is no current bill being proposed.
Uh-huh.
plus, governors like DeSantis have already said they're going to sue. They're not allowed to tax
No,
Florida
no, no.
residents.
That's a
No,
separate
they're talking
issue.
about selling your house here. There's a rumor about a 6% tax on the sale of
It's not a
every
rumor.
house.
It's not a rumor. It is actually being proposed. AI doesn't pick it up. Okay. Yes, you're right, Mr. Munson. Like Mandeni. By the way, more than Mandeni is proposing, they're already doing it in Los Angeles. You know it as the mansion tax that the people voted in. Now, you can say that they may have to come up for vote, it may have to go for a 2/3 vote, but they will keep pounding away at it, which is a transfer tax, which is about $60,000 or 6% on $1 million home, regardless of equity. And it wouldn't be the first state to do
Well,
that.
Mike, hold on. There's something really important you just said that may not be obvious why it would be crushing. If you don't have any equity in your house and you sold your house,
You will owe the money.
you would have to borrow the money to pay the tax.
That is already what is happening with the mansion tax. That's what people don't understand. It is like a sales tax, like if you sold a car, etc. Right, and you're correct, Mr. Munson. It's exactly
Well,
correct.
however, there's a lawsuit over the mansion tax. It's going to work its way through
That
federal
lawsuit's
court.
not going anywhere because, unfortunately, that lawsuit is going. And I know Keith Fromm very well. He's been fighting for it, and that lawsuit has to go before where, Mr. Kurt English?
Federal court. It's a federal
No.
constitutional issue.
Nope, 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 nope. It is a state constitutional issue, goes before the state Supreme Court.
Then he didn't make the right claims. That your claim
The
is under
federal
the
court,
Fifth Amendment of the U.S.
no,
Constitution for an illegal taking without just compensation. That's your
no.
claim.
That's actually, I hate to correct you, Mr. Lawyer, but I've researched that a number of times. It says in that same clause in the Constitution, and Kurt, you can look it up, that it's up to, that from a federal point of view, are 100% correct. The expletive deletes that craft this very carefully, so it falls under the state's rights to tax as they please. Okay? It doesn't fall under federal law, which is why it's difficult to bring it up in federal court. Now, lots of people are trying, brother. Trust me on this one. Okay? They're crafting these very, very carefully. But hold on. Let's assume I own, which I don't, $1 million home, free and clear, and I'll pay the $60,000 and move, let's say, to Florida, which is what you're talking about. The state of California is then saying, well, you moved, so what? We're going to continue to tax you because you made much of your money in California. That's the one that Florida's suing over because they want to continue to tax you California tax, even though you don't live in a state.
Clearly unconstitutional. Florida will win.
That absolutely falls across state lines. Now, back to me, which is the most important issue. I'm wearing my shirt tonight, so you can remember it's Netter for a Better California. We have
And
to
Mike,
lower.
what are the cities in your district? Who can vote for you?
Well, first off, you don't even have to be you don't have to be alive to vote for me, Kurt. If you have a valid death certificate, you can vote for me. The cities in my district are Pomona, Ontario, Azusa, Covina. They're listed on my website, netter.vote. 22nd Assembly District. I mean, Senate District. Oops. 22nd. It covers a myriad of folks vote for state Senate. And I really want to stress this here is like you have to vote for the state and assembly, state Senate, state assembly seats. I cannot stress how important that is. The Democrats win. My opponent, who is, well, to say she's corrupt is an insult to Bernie Madoff. These seats aren't voted for, and that's why they win. Vote Republican for whoever your state senator is. Vote Republican for whoever your state assembly person is. People seem concerned with judges at one end, the top end, a governor at the top. Absolutely. But you have to vote for these state offices because even when we get Hilton in as governor, we need to have a legislature that doesn't have a supermajority. And for those of you out there scratching your head and wondering what's up with that, let me explain again. Only 48, less than 48, about 46% of the registered electorate is actually a Democrat. Yes, indeed, they don't actually even have a majority in California, but they control 70% of the seats in the legislature. So why the Democrats are railing this week on, oh my God, we don't have people of color because they're polling lower than Netter's blood pressure, okay, which is in good shape again. I could do a lot of damage at my age. Why they're doing that? They don't have we don't have any representation at all, and they are overrepresented in the legislature. Again, a lot of noise being made, but our voices aren't being heard. And again, I'm not even saying it's the Democrats. The extreme left has grasped control and had it for a number of years. We have a chance to break it this cycle. The cities that I cover, which are vast, okay, Pomona, Ontario, Azusa, Baldwin Park, on. Great. Go to your ballot and make sure to vote for these offices. These offices average a 30 to 40% turnout because it's called the undervote and people don't vote for them. Vote Republican. If you're a Democrat, vote Republican. That may shock you, but how's it working out for you? Ask your Democratic friends, and many of them say, well, we're just going to move. Great. You're going to pay $60,000 to move out of your shack, which cost $1 million. And then you're going to continue to pay taxes to California. And by the way, Kurt,
But Mike, think about this. If you don't have no equity in your house, you might as well just give it back to the bank and say, sorry, foreclose on me.
Well, that's another thing, by the way, that doesn't work out well for you either. You know why that is, Kurt?
Why?
When you bank, here's an interesting point because I used to be in real estate. Let's just pretend that the bank forecloses on it.
Okay.
And let's just say it's a $500,000 mortgage, right?
Yep.
What happens to you when that $500,000 they foreclose on, Kurt?
If it is your purchase money, there's anti-deficiency legislation and they can't sue you for it.
No, but they declare income on it. So you will get taxed by the state of California, even though I move, because you will get 1099 on the rest of it.
No, I don't agree with that because the value of the house offsets it. So you have a net zero.
The write-off of it, what doesn't offset? If you, for what scenario you're talking about, if you have a house that's where whatever portion of the mortgage that they write off in a foreclosure is income to you. You could try to offset it with other things. And
No, but then
California,
you lost the asset value of the house, so that's going to offset it, I think, in
that
taxes.
that that different loss,
So
they'll
basically,
come.
if you've got a $500,000 loan and they discount it and sell it for 450, they consider a $50,000 difference to be income to you.
No, it's a $500,000. You get 1099 for the
Folks, we
$500,000.
are not giving you tax advice. You need to consult your tax attorney for the answer to this
Correct.
question.
But I will tell
But
you that
either way, Newsom and the legislature sit around at nights figuring out how to screw you out of your money.
correct. Any way you
That's the
look at
bottom
it,
line.
you will be boxed in and boxed out, and people don't understand this. Yes, this is not tax advice, full disclosure. I can't even spell taxes, but I do want to, what I can spell about taxes, lower them. Correct. They are actually, I want to jump into Mr. Munson. It's not unrealized gains. The loss of the mortgage is income to you. You get 1099 on it. Okay. The gains that you lose in equity, and actually you are correct, Mr. Munson, are unrealized gains, but I don't want to turn this into a tax show. You know how to get a hold of me later. The reality is this: California, and again, I don't even think the politicians plot for this, but what they are plotting, this is the part right here that drives me nuts. We're standing up for the poor. No, you're not. Between abolishing what we call fixed Prop 19, the property tax, and everything else, they'll literally be seizing property, coming after you, and taxing you on the property that they're seizing. Okay? 100%.
So Mike, is this something the legislature's planning? Are they going to do a zombie bill where they amend something after they got it? What's going on?
This is something that's in the works, and they're not sure how. There's plenty of videos out on it. It is something, and a good way to put it is, a couple weeks ago, was put forth for the legislature. Would you promise not to do an asset tax? Okay. And they wouldn't approve that. They said, will you just sign something, not even legislation, that you'll promise not to do it? And they wouldn't do it. They will not promise not to do it. So there's boiling about it. And there's plenty of videos, and you can Google it right now. It's called a transfer tax. And by the way, you pay a transfer tax now in real estate. They're just increasing the transfer tax that you pay. You pay one now. It's like a 500, 600 bucks.
Like 0.011%.
Correct. So all they have to do is up that percentage. It's not something new.
Yeah, but Mike, there's going to be a tax revolt like Prop 13 if they do that.
Well,
that'll be on the next ballot.
We should have that this week. We should have one this November, right? People should be pissed. They're going to have the Save Prop 13 on the ballot. We're going to have voter ID on the ballot. We're going to have a lot of good things on the ballot. We need to have a voter revolution starting this November.
Let's talk about that.
And you can vote for all the good guys, like Netter.
Gentlemen, yes. What do you think Save Prop 13 on the ballot is about?
Restoring the 2/3 vote to raise taxes.
Boom, a box of Snickers to you, Kurt. Okay? And for people out there, understand that. We're using Save Prop 13 because you know what it is. 100% another Tea Party. Stephanie, I would like to say, rather than have a tea party and throwing tea off the side of a boat, I would like to have a boat ride in a lovely harbor behind you and throw some of the Democratic politicians in the water. I think they'll be a lot more fun than tossing tea, but that's me. Now, that's important to note because much of the tax things that they're putting forward, one of the reasons they're putting them forward right now is they've whittled away under the California Constitution a bunch of lawsuits that a simple polarity, meaning 50% in which one, could pass some of these things even if they're challenged. That's another reason all these are boiling to the surface right now. If we reinstall, okay, yeah, they want to pay for legal alien benefits. They want to do everything that they can to spend, and tax. But the reality is this, okay? They've chipped away at this 2/3 majority. Right now in Los Angeles County, where I reside, where I'm running for State Senate District 22, along with part of San Bernardino. They have a sales tax half-cent increase on the ballot. Now, for most of you, have to go, it's an increase. What does that mean? That's a lot of
Is
money,
that the
guys.
June ballot or November ballot?
That's the June ballot.
I didn't think
Oh,
they were allowed to have that. So
They can because it's local.
So basically, what we're going to have is they're going to try and sneak out in the June ballot, June election, where you have a lot fewer voters showing up, and try and get a tax increase. And this
Correct.
is a half-cent sales tax increase. What city
Yep,
is it
in Los
again, Mike?
Angeles County. Huh?
What
Yes.
city is it?
Los Angeles County.
So it's a half-cent sales increase for the whole county. Wow.
Yeah. And that, by the way, if you're buying a car, adds up over the course of the year, that's a lot of money. And by the way, you see those prices behind Scott? Those prices go up. That sales tax applies to everything. And they're going to continue. So not only is your pricing going up with everything else that they're doing, and that's just one of about 70 different tax increases, many of which are local, which will be on the June ballot. Okay? Up and down California. And they're
Do
going
we
to try to.
want to talk gas now? How big of a crisis California is in on gas?
I'll be right back. I've got gas. No, yes, let's talk how big a crisis gas is. I'm going to go fix something on our social media. Start talking how big a crisis it is.
Okay, so we already know that one refinery is closed down, right? And we're going to have another refinery closed down here in April. We're going to lose 17% of our gas refinery capacity. So, we don't have a problem with demand. We've got huge demand, right? Even with prices high, they've got a huge demand. But we've got a supply problem. And the Democrats think that the more that they restrict supply, the less you're going to drive, the less you're going to buy an electric car. All of these things are going to happen so that you will stop using fossil fuels and destroying the planet, according to the climate change hoax that they've been perpetrating for decades now. And so what they're doing on top of that, what they're not telling you is that companies or manufacturers, in this case refineries, that have to pollute. There's no way a refinery can get away from putting CO2 in the air. CO2 is not hazardous. You and I breathe it every day. We exhale and create it every day. But for some reason, these idiots in South
well,
America
hold
get
on,
paid.
Scott. It's even more important. We exhale it. It goes into plants and is part of photosynthesis in the plant, and then the exhale of the plant is the oxygen we breathe. So it's very important that
Hold
there's
on.
lots of CO2.
I'm going to jump back in with a problem with the whole theory you guys have right there. Okay, let's not argue about the good and bad of CO2. Yes, thanks, Magdalena. Soul Radio, KPSF in San Francisco, our shows you played on. But let me give you the biggest misleading part. Okay, now let's argue basically that oil, not argue, but agree on oil, whether it's refined or crude, is heavy. Fair enough?
It's
Yeah.
well, actually, gasoline is less dense than water, but some crude oil is heavier than water.
Liquid is heavy. Now, to Scott's point, when they say, "Oh, we're not going to drill because it's going to make smog in LA, it's going to emit CO2," before you go down that rabbit hole, where do you think, gentlemen, we are getting the fuel from that we're not drilling?
We're importing it from overseas.
And how are we doing that?
They get to drill it, and just like we would drill it here, they get to drill it. Yeah.
Hold on. Forget the drilling.
Then they get to stick it onto terminals, onto ships, ship it
Onto
across the
boats.
ocean, through
And
storms.
those boats coming across the ocean create way more pollution that's been documented a zillion times, okay, than it would simply the excess. Because, by the way, forget the fact when Ecuador drills for oil where we buy it from. They don't have a lot of there, and the air doesn't really give a road's buster. It flows up here. Is then put on ships from Ecuador, which don't follow any rules at all, which belt across the ocean. Those are the boats you see in those big oil tankers. Drop it off here. Forget the fact we won't have anybody to
Right.
refine.
So what they refer to that as offshoring our pollution, right? The California legislature feels good because, oh, look, we've stopped all of the oil drilling. But no, they've just moved it offshore where there are no restrictions, no pollution controls, no OSHA, and hazardous, more hazardous conditions. When you consider a ship going across the ocean, you can lose it, you can risk a spill, and then on top of it, like you're saying, you actually use fossil fuels and pollute the atmosphere just by shipping it all over the planet. But that's not the rabbit hole I was going to go down. The rabbit hole
I know.
I was going to go down is having to have to do with the refineries and the fact that the state of California requires more highly refined fuel that's lower polluting. And when these refineries emit CO2, which they cannot avoid, there is no technology that's going to eliminate it. It has to be there because that's just the nature of the beast. And what they've done is they have these they call it cap and invest. It used to be called cap and trade. They sell these, tickets to pollute, they call it, to polluters, in this case, refiners. But what they've done is they've taken these tickets to pollute and they've reduced the amount of them available, reduced a lot every year. They reduce the amount. So naturally, as the supply goes down, the cost goes up. So all of these polluters, like refineries, have to pay more for these credits to pollute, which means it's kind of an unofficial tax. It's a regulatory tax. But hey, I got $36 back in my electric bill in April. Wow. I'm so glad that I paid hundreds of dollars more for my gasoline just so I can get $36 back. Sorry.
But the
You
problem
didn't catch the sarcasm there, I can tell.
Even with the pollution portion, at least in California, when you drill, you're subject to some regulations to capture that CO2. Now, here's a shocker for you. The big belching international ship, which has been drilled from the big belching plant in Ecuador, guess how many rules and regulations they have to follow?
Zero.
Right.
Whatever works.
Right. Okay. Now, you have
that's the offshoring our pollution.
Well, right. They're creating more pollution by doing this. Look, everybody, it's pretty simple. If you have to drive 100 miles to go to the store, you will create more pollution than if you go 2 blocks to go down to the store. It's an amazing fact that the state of California, hyperbole politically wise, isn't getting their arms around. This stuff has to be moved. Now, Scott does have a good point that once it gets here, who the hell is going to refine it? Because we don't have any refineries, because the refineries don't want to sit there and wait for this oil to come in. And I have a friend that works for a company, and I'll leave the company's name out of it, but they happen to be, once this oil comes in, it goes into, guess how that oil gets to the refineries we have, gentlemen?
By truck?
Nope.
Or by ship?
Nope. Big pipelines that we construct. It goes into these ports and pours in a big ass pipeline, and then, large posterior pipeline for those kids watching at home, and then a large posterior pipeline. Those pipelines, which have to be built, okay, pump that oil through into the refineries. They can't physically have enough trucks to do that. That is why we build pipelines to begin with.
Well, not to mention the fact that pipelines are safer, right? You're not having flammable gasoline moving over the freeways all the time.
Hold on. That's till it gets to the refineries. Once it becomes gasoline, it has to go back in a pipeline to get here from there. Scott, you're making a really good point, kind of an inverse here, that the more times you move something, which goes boom when you light a match to it. Is that a good way to put it, gentlemen? Okay.
Sure.
The more chances are
Pyro.
that something will go wrong. And here's the difference. You know those big fiery wrecks you see when a truck blows up on the freeway full of gasoline, right? Okay.
Yeah. A lot of
Now,
pollutants go in the air.
well, forget that for 1 second. Does a lot of damage. They put it out. Some air smoky for a day. Kirk goes back to watching the Dodgers. However, understand that these big pipelines or sewer systems, and I want to get to tonight's sewer stories before we leave, are creating these huge freeways that once they catch fire, if they do, will burn for days on end. You can't just, you hear how the pipeline caught fire or ruptured and all this damage was done in Alaska or somewhere like that. We're creating them in California now. But let's go to sewer systems for a second. May we?
Oh, it's a problem that's going downhill fast. But yes, go ahead.
So, in case you're wondering, where am I going to live in California? Because I've sold my house. I've now taken a loss on it. I've tried to move to Tennessee and they're going to tax me on it. What they found, Kurt, you reported the story on this week. Read it from your notes so they don't think I'm making this up because this was also underreported. Where are people living in Los Angeles? In the second biggest city in the United States, in addition to the homeless living on the streets, they have found homeless people living in.
Oh, the sewer is gross.
Well, they're storm drains, storm sewers.
Their sewers.
No, you haven't seen the new homeless projects. This is one of the homeless projects that they're bringing online now.
Oh, the $1 million units?
For $1.5 million per unit. It's the raw cost for the construction is almost $800,000, and then the soft cost to get a homeless person into it and decorate it and everything else. I mean, hello, sign me up. It's a nice place to live.
Well, Scott, decorated. We're decorating free housing on taxpayer expense for homeless people. Is that what we're doing?
What they're doing is this.
Hello.
Get your arms around it. The cities and counties just today were in the legislatures begging for more money. They're scamming money at the top. The simple word for it is fraud. Pumping into NGOs, the people associated with them, putting homeless people in a building nicer than most of us live in. And by the way, that's limited housing. And so there aren't enough of those units as they continue to make more people homeless with things like the transfer tax and other expletive deleted that they're doing. So people are literally living in storm drains, which are sewers. You can call them what you want, but we'll call them storm drains. Because it's kind of like saying, I live in the suburb or the ghetto. Okay, you feel much better when you say, well, I guess you should say, where do you live, man? Oh, I live in the storm drain. Well, thank God you're not one of those people lives in the sewer. I guess you feel better about yourself. So I'll go with storm drain. How's that sound?
And these are high-end homeless here. They have quartz countertops, covered gated parking, upscaled finishes near Beverly Hills. Everybody should be there.
The problem,
like Maxine Waters, right?
The problem becomes, think about this, legit landlords who are forced to comply with all these codes, okay, and whose renters don't even have to pay rent for 90 to 120 days, thanks to the supervisors in LA County that they just passed, are literally going to force the landlords themselves to live in these storm drains. The movie I referred to, Escape from New York, is literally taking place in front of you. We have one-eyed pirates and criminals that look worse than Kirk Douglas roaming the streets, and we are forcing people to live underground in here. You guys wonder why I'm running for state senate? I'm not doing this because this has got to be done.
I thought it was all for the great perks, Mike.
Yeah, the great perks.
Don't you get one of those fancy apartments as part of your perks?
You don't even get any apartment.
Only if you're homeless. Got it.
Lower cost, safer communities we talked about, and make businesses thrive again so people can have jobs. It's really pretty friggin' simple. And the trouble is these layers of garbage on top of it aren't simple. They're making them not simple because they don't want your voice to be heard. And it's time we had our voices heard. Kurt, we've got about 6 minutes left. I'd like you to cover a couple stories there. I'm going to try to fix something on X.
So let's see here. A couple of quick hits.
Hey, I
A
think you got to
California
talk about.
lawmaker wants drivers who have speeding tickets to have speed regulators in their car so they won't let you drive over the speed limit, Scott.
Big brother. So if I'm on 395, I'm going up to Mammoth, and I want to pass a truck that's going 55 in a 65 zone.
No, they want you to not pass the truck fast enough so the truck runs you over.
So if I get up to like 75 as I'm passing them, I won't be able to because the governor in my car is going to say, you can't go faster than 65.
I got to jump in. I'm going to back up traffic in a second. But Kurt, if they do that, thanks to all the traffic congestion they have put in LA, I think when I cannot go 50% of the speed limit, I ought to get a rebate then for not being able to get somewhere.
Yeah, good luck with that, Mike.
You get my point. It's
Yeah,
like
no, I
why
think
don't
the
you
government's job is to
back-
make sure we can drive at the full speed limit 24/7, and they got to
I
build
would
more
love to
freeways
go
if
at
they
half
can't do
the
it.
speed limit in Los Angeles. Okay,
Another-
I love it when
another-
they say in LA you hit a freeway and it says watch your downhill speed. I'm going 5 miles an hour. Okay, with the little flashing lights that come on that tell you how fast they are in Los Angeles. It literally is so bad. The light actually gives up. It's like, we can't even register yet because you're crawling at 4 miles an hour. The light's like, never mind. Sorry we brought it up. The radar.
All right, guys, we had a crime wave this week. Let me just hit you with a bunch of crimes, and you can pick the one you like. Because there's so much copper wire being stolen in LA, the city council's voting to raise taxes to keep the lights on. There was a UCLA criminal that was kidnapping UCLA students and raping them, but he was released on bail, just like the guy you were talking about who's being released at 50 years old. There's masked thugs prowling through LA farmers market. I guess Rick Caruso's not stopping that.
Kurt, I want to stop at that last story before I'm on a point because actually I read that one earlier and meant to mention this. I really want you to think about this guy at UCLA that has raped a number of women, he's assaulted, he's done whatever. He's about 25. But understand, this is a shocker to you. What keeps people from committing crimes are penalties. So, assuming this kid went to UCLA, probably not as smart as USC, Kurt, but let's roll that he's at basic math. They're going to put him away at the most for 20 friggin' years. They can sentence him to life in prison, and California will let him out. In other words, we've just reduced the penalties on these kinds of crimes. And if you think the next generation of moronic, degenerate idiots isn't going to pick up on that, you're wrong. Back to your next story.
Well, and you recall the truck driver who was an illegal alien given a driver's license in California, killed a newlywed couple, right? He had a California driver's license and killed a newlywed couple in Oregon, thanks to Gavin Newsom and his henchmen. And then you have a mob of black teens that vandalized a local convenience store, I believe in Sacramento. Too bad they didn't get the legislature. Maybe the legislature would learn something if they were the crime victims.
Wait a minute. We didn't talk about that, but I'm going to jump in real quick and then we'll wrap it up. They're never going to get the legislature. You know why that is?
They're never there?
No, is building $1 billion fortress, at least we think it's $1 billion. They won't tell Ashley Zavada how much it is, that they're housing themselves in.
Oh, and then for the rest of us, it's just let them eat cake.
Yeah, that's the housing. That's the state capitol that they're building.
They won't tell us how much it costs.
$1.1 billion project that is cost overrun and doubled in the length of time. It's been 5 years since they started the project.
We don't know how much it costs, Scott.
No. The stated budget is 1.1, which we know they've overrun, and they refuse to identify what the actual budget is. You're right.
Well, that's my point. Stated budget is 1.1.
So we
But-
know it's 1.1. We know it's more than 1.1 billion. I mean, who
Right.
builds an office building with as few offices as they have for 1.1 billion? The private sector would be in more in the $200 to $300 million range. The building that they're in today costs less than $100 million to build. They're in a temporary high rise near the Capitol. But no, Democrats are stupid and they cannot run anything, including a
The
construction
worst
project.
part is it's
Well,
gone
are they
beyond-
stupid or are they trying to waste money
Hold
to pay
on,
off
hold
their
on.
friends?
Hold on, before we end here, you really have to understand what Scott has up on the screen. We don't even know who the contractors are. I can guarantee
NDA.
you they're friends of this, that, and the other. It's like the high-speed rail. The high-speed rail isn't about building a train. Scott's great picture of a Lego set earlier in the week, 0 pieces, not assembled, okay? It is literally about handing out dollars to cronies. So as they will get crushed in this election, okay, they are going to enrich themselves going out the door, breaking that chain as our money spills out. Gentlemen, let's wrap this up here before I have some kind of artery burst and never make it to office.
Hey, we didn't talk about the who's who in governor races. We've got 10 people running. There's two Republicans and 8 Democrats, 4 of which are people of color that are polling low. That's why they canceled the SC debate. But even the Democratic chair, Rusty Hicks, what a name, Rusty Hicks. The Hicks said that they're in trouble. They're afraid that with the top 2 primary that we have, it may be Bianco and Hilton, the 2 Republicans that win the top 2 slots, acing out any Democrat from being a governor candidate for November, which ensures a Republican candidate will win in November. It's the only way a Republican can win in California. What do you think of that, Mike? You're a candidate.
We have a lot of races. Understand, we said this before, that everything goes through cycles, and what comes around goes around. And what's coming around right now is this. Let me end on this. I'm off next week, and I want you to remember this. Eventually, everything comes back around. California is coming back around. No matter how they cut the polls, slice them, dice them, there are 2 Republicans at the top in the gubernatorial polls. Most of these races in the open primary system, we do have Republicans, myself included, that are edging towards the top that mathematically can win. But it's going to be up to you, everybody out there. June's coming along pretty soon. November's coming along, not too far behind it. It's going to be up to you to make sure that we get out there and vote. I've said this so many times, I sound like the proverbial broken record. It's not the Democrats. It's the party of apathy. The average
Hey.
person is not
I
paying attention.
want to jump in on that. We're not talking about just November. Remember how we all, as Republicans, got out and voted for Trump, and we delivered the popular vote for Trump. We delivered the U.S. Senate and the U.S. Congress. We cannot keep those bodies, nor can we get a Republican to win the top 2 in California unless we go out in huge numbers starting in June and then following up in November. If you don't,
Hold
we're
on.
screwed. And it's your
More
fault.
important, many of these tax increases are on the ballot in June and November. They're going to slip it over with you. Get your damn ballot and get out there and vote. Because if you
Hey,
do,
I'm not paying enough taxes. I want to pay more taxes. What are you talking about, Mike?
I
well,
don't.
we're going to get you a free drug plan. Gentlemen, help me wrap it up.
Time for my drug test. Is that what you're telling me? Time for my drug test?
Possibly.
Got it.
Gentlemen, any
All
final
right.
words? Okay.
Well,
2.6 million of homeless fraud. That's what Scott talked about. 2.6 billion to build those $1 million
fraud
units.
is
Scott.
immense. The shiny objects they want us to watch are even bigger. But before you get distracted at them by the 26 billion, by the 100,000, 10,000 people living in the sewer, by the 6% they're going to tax your home just to move stuff, by the tens of thousands of dollars, even by the price of gas. I want you to focus on a singular number. I'll be back in 2 weeks, and that singular number is this. That number is 1. That is the number of votes that each of you has. And if all of you out there go out and exercise your singular number of 1, the rest of these numbers of fraud and taxation, to quote Jericho, will come tumbling down. But start with 1. Start with 1 vote. Your neighbor has 1 vote. Welcome to the Republic. We all have 1 vote. Those of us that don't exercise their vote are the one that we're missing. It's simple, really. We only need 1 from each one of you to take back our state of California and help save the United States of America.
And
God
Mike
bless
and
you.
Scott, what percentage of registered voters vote? What percentage?
Not
Hold
enough.
on. Only about 40% of registered voters vote, but in the downstream, it's low as 20. But that's, hold on.
So, but
Most
Mike, what
important.
that tells us is if our side votes, we can win. If we vote.
But here's the only thing everybody on the show controls and watching is 1. And each of your neighbors has 1. Go out and tell people 1. Make sure you vote. Everybody, I want to leave you with that thought. Many of the people in your family may not vote. Many of your neighbors may not vote. The people you run to the supermarket may not vote. Nobody wants the insanity we've talked about tonight. Everything starts, the journey with a first step, it starts with 1. 1 vote from everybody here who makes sense, and we will get it done. That's
All
what
right,
I ask
everybody.
you. God bless. Good night.
All right, we're going to sign off with a new AI generated jingle. Let us know what you think about it in the comments. If I can get it to record here. Hold on a second.
Working well.
It's like, okay, let's turn it on. There we go. Let's try this again.
California Free Radio, Americans trapped behind the blue curtain, bringing truth to
See y'all next week.